Thanks so much for dropping by the Junction, where we're trying to make connections between Ardmorites. I'm Ardmore Leader News Director Michael Dean Smith. Joining us in the Junction this week is Gina Rodgers. She's the COO for Lighthouse Behavioral Wellness Centers to talk a little bit about some of the services they offer and some of the things that they're doing to mark Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. So Gina Rodgers, thanks for coming by the Junction this week.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
So with September being Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, there's obviously lots that we're going to talk about. And just to really jump into this, what are some of those resources that Lighthouse provides locally, not just for suicide prevention, but just mental health in general? What are some of those resources that Lighthouse is able to offer locally?
Absolutely. So really our services are broken down into two different areas. So typically what you think of as outpatient counseling for any variety of needs, anywhere from a mild depression to a child having difficulty with maybe their parents going through a divorce, all the way up through something more severe like a severe depression, psychosis. And so we treat that in our outpatient clinics. Mm-hmm. We have those available throughout 9 counties, but specifically here in Ardmore, we have a very large clinic of about 65 individuals that are able to provide assessment and treatment for any variety of mental health issues. The other side of that would be our crisis services. So anyone who is experiencing any form of crisis. So a crisis could be for one person different than it is for someone else. So we allow the person to define what that is. So if they're struggling and they are having difficulty, we have 2 different levels of crisis services that we provide. So we have an urgent recovery center, very similar to what you think of on the medical side, right? So you don't necessarily always go to the emergency room for every level of medical emergency. So an urgent recovery center is the same for behavioral health. So a person can go into an urgent recovery center that we have located here on the Mercy Hospital campus. They can present there and they would receive assessment. And then we also have for more severe crises, a crisis stabilization unit. So we try to treat the person in our own community. It's easier when you have resources around you, when you have your support system around you. And so we're able to do that here locally in Ardmore.
About how many people is Lighthouse able to serve, like on a monthly or even a yearly basis? How many lives are you guys touching? Yeah,
so it continues to grow because as the need increases, we've had to also increase our services. In general, in any given year, we serve about 13,000 individuals. Wow. So about 2,000 of those would be through our crisis stabilization and our urgent recovery centers, and then the remainder of those would be through our outpatient services. So
speaking more broadly than just suicide prevention and suicide awareness, this is just about any level of any sort of mental health needs that somebody has, like you said, from just maybe some behavioral issues all the way up to some pretty serious issues. You guys cover the whole gamut.
Absolutely. So we can do play therapy with our littles, we call them, so 0 to 3-year-old children who are having any level of maybe behavioral issue or adjustment issue, all the way up through the entire spectrum of life to, elderly. And so we do that in our outpatient clinics, and it's any spectrum of services. So if someone is even beginning to feel like, I just don't feel the same, I'm not myself anymore, then we can do an assessment and help them to determine what that is. Or something more severe where maybe they have a behavioral health diagnosis. We do that in outpatient through a combination of things like outpatient counseling, through a variety of different modalities, as well as medication management. We do housing services because we do know that when someone's life is impacted with behavioral health, they may possibly be struggling with work. That may impact their ability to maintain their housing. So we have employment services, housing services, case management services, as well as collaboration services. Because we want to be able to collaborate with their medical provider, we know that when something affects a person's head, it also affects their body. And when it affects their body, it affects their head. And so we want to make sure that they have an entire treatment team surrounding them, not just their behavioral health treatment team, but also any medical provider or trusted person that they have in their life to be a part of that service team.
So beyond just the mental aspect, you're also looking at more of the physical aspects and just some of the aspects of life that may be affecting somebody's behavior, things like that.
Absolutely. We actually call that the dimensions of wellness. And so that looks at what is a person's social functioning? How are they engaged in their community? What are they doing intellectually to increase their mind and their memory? How are they doing occupationally? emotionally? What are they doing physically? And so we look at all of the 8 dimensions of the whole person to be able to treat them.
We're talking with Gina Rodgers. She's a COO for Lighthouse Behavioral Wellness Centers. They've got this campaign going on through the month of September, which is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And I want to ask you, Gina, what is Lighthouse doing to mark Suicide Prevention Awareness Month? I know there are a couple of events coming up. Can you talk a little bit about some of those?
We have a lot of events during the month of September. So for the first time ever, we actually have some remembrance vigils. So we have 3 of those across southern Oklahoma, one specifically here. We also are offering QPR, which is question, persuade, refer, and talk saves lives, which are 2 different systems, if you will. They're models for how the layperson actually can ask someone if they're struggling and be able to get them help. And so you don't have to be a professional. Most people who are dealing with suicide have someone around them. And so if there's a friend or a family member who just knows to ask the questions, are you thinking of killing yourself? Tell me what's going on with you. What we've found statistically is that most individuals really don't want to die. They're just waiting for someone to step in and offer a hand. And it doesn't have to be a professional to do that. It just has to be someone who can intervene and then get them to someone who can help them. And so we're offering that as well. So that's question, persuade, refer, QPR training, as well as Talk Saves Lives to any business, school, anyone who would like to learn those skills. We have those going on throughout the community, and then they can also contact our office, and we can set that up specifically for anyone who would like that service as well.
This wasn't on my list, but that made me kind of think, while somebody may be dealing with a mental health, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, a situation coming up in their lives, but what kind of resources do you guys have for somebody that may not be dealing with that themselves, but may have a friend or a loved one? Are there resources for them through Lighthouse as well?
So that would be probably not our typical person that we serve, but absolutely that person can call our hotline and we can help them to get assistance for the person that may need that in their life. So they could call our hotline, which is 1-800-522-1090. They also can call the statewide hotline, which is 988. Through both of those, they would be able to access services, be able to ask any questions that they have, get the information that they need, and then connect that person, either hand the phone to them or know how to get them assistance.
Okay. So you've got that local crisis hotline, the 800-522-1090. There's also that statewide crisis hotline, 988, similar to 911, just hit those 3 numbers that connects you. Are those the only kind of local resources available, or are there any other resources available, maybe not even provided by Lighthouse, that people could use to help them navigate through some of these instances?
Right. So a person can walk in at any time to the emergency room and they would access behavioral health services for them. Typically, they call Lighthouse to do that. They can also call 911. If they forgot the 988 number, they can call 911, and those officers, when they arrive on scene, would then access services through behavioral health as well. Currently, they do that through an iPad system that we have provided to our officers in Carter County. And so they don't even have to transport the person off-site. They can do the assessment right there in the home through a licensed mental health professional on the iPad system.
Okay. And then finally, I know just a couple of months ago, Lighthouse had moved from the building over there close to Mercy Hospital up to the northern part of Commerce Street. That's been, about 3 months now or so. How has that move affected how Lighthouse is able to provide services for residents in the community?
Yeah, part of the reason that we looked at moving, Michael, really was so that we could serve more individuals. We had just outgrown our space, and we weren't able to add additional counselors and care coordinators to be able to provide those services in our current facilities.
There just wasn't the room.
There just wasn't room. And we had even worked so that people could work remotely. But oftentimes people want that face-to-face connection. And so that really just didn't serve the community need. And so we found an amazing building. We had amazing support from our community foundations to help us to purchase that building. And then we were able to remodel it. Now, when we first bought it, we had thought that we would be able to move all of our outpatient services as well as our administration into that location because we had been in multiple locations. We wanted everyone to be in one location. But, it takes a little bit of time for construction to happen. And by the time construction was finished, we didn't have space for administration. It's a great problem to have,
Sure.
right? And so we had just continued to grow to be able to meet the needs. So we have about 65 individuals who are in that building to be able to serve our community now.
Okay.
And so our administration building didn't move in, and so currently it is full of behavioral health providers.
Okay. So that's at the Quinton Little building. They're just north of Walmart on South Commerce Avenue. So you said that if anybody does have any situations going on, that they can also just walk into the center?
Absolutely. Walk in at any time.
All
Yes.
right. Well, Gina Rodgers, COO for Lighthouse Behavioral Wellness Centers, was there anything else that you might want to talk about for Suicide Awareness Prevention Month or any of the other services offered by Lighthouse?
Sure. One of the things I think that's really important for our community to know is that the suicide rate in Oklahoma is very high. We rank within the top 10 states in the United States. And the percent of increase is continuing to grow. So in the last 2 decades, that's increased by 48% from where it was. So the other aspect of that I think is important is that within Oklahoma, it's worse in rural communities. And so we really do in our rural community need to watch out for our fellow peer, and to be able to ask them, "Are you okay? What can I do to help?" And one of the things we know is that one of the individuals who survived his suicide attempt on the Golden State Bridge, as he was walking up that day and was planning to jump off to his death, he started kind of debating with himself, and he said, "If one person just says hello to me, I won't do it." Mm-hmm. And no one said hello. And they said, "Well, if one person will just smile at me, I won't do it." And no one smiled at him. He really didn't want to die, but he did. He jumped off the bridge, and it didn't take very long into that fall before he thought, "What have I done?" And so the message that he is wanting to share is that life can get better. It does get better. So our theme for this month is Let Hope Rise. Hope is one of the core values that we have at Lighthouse. It's one of the things that no one can take away from us. But just having a little bit of hope that one person is going to ask, "Are you okay?" That one person may smile, that your life does matter, is important. And so this month and every month, we want people to know that they do matter. And while we only focus on it for 1 month, for Suicide Prevention Month, hope will get us through.
All right. Well, Gina Rodgers, COO for Lighthouse Behavioral Wellness Centers, thank you so much for joining us in the Junction this week.